You never really know what you're going to get when it comes to Hot Wheels games. For every Hot Wheels stunt track driver, there is also a Hot Wheels World's Best driver. Most of the franchise tends to lean a bit closer to the latter. So it is with trepidation that I approached Hot Wheels Unleashed, hopeful to rekindle some nostalgia with an arcade racing experience, while being fully prepared for the worst. Hot Wheels Unleashed is a drift-focused arcade racing game that leans heavily on its toy car inspiration. This applies not only to the races themselves, but the entire package. This is a game built in essentially equal measure on racing, collecting, and customizing. While it approaches each of these with varying degrees of success, it is difficult to ignore the sheer volume of content included in Hot Wheels Unleashed. As you start a new game, you'll instantly be given 3 blind boxes, from which you'll pull your first 3 cars. These are truly random, so different players will not necessarily start with the same cars. This is worth noting, as some vehicles are objectively worse than others. While you seemingly get 1 balanced car, 1 very fast car, and 1 terrible car, the exact stats can vary significantly. Throughout the single-player campaign, you'll earn coins and gears. Coins can be used to buy new blind boxes or even individual cars, which are available on a rotating schedule. Gears, meanwhile, can be used to upgrade your car's stats. New cars and other elements will also be available via DLC, both paid and free. But of course, the main attraction here is the racing itself. Hot Wheels Unleashed includes both online and offline multiplayer, along with a surprisingly expansive single-player campaign. As the game is not yet released at the time of writing this, I have been unable to fully experience the online component, but plan on updating my review with a final score after launch. The updated review will be available in written form on NintendoWorldReport.com around the time of a planned October 4th update for the game. The single-player mode, Hot Wheels City Rumble, presents a map full of challenges for the player to compete in. Most events have both a standard victory condition and a bonus condition which unlocks additional rewards. For example, most races require you to place in the top 3 to proceed, but winning first place will often net a new car for your collection. Different paths along the map lead to different rewards, and some events are even hidden behind secret unlocks. This is honestly my ideal setup for a single player in a racing game, rather than a traditional Grand Prix mode. The only weakness here is that while the setup is perfect, all of the events essentially just equate to a race or a time trial. Even events labeled Boss Race are ultimately just a normal race, but with the added condition of getting first place being the only way to proceed. There isn't even a specific boss car involved in the race, it's just the same random lineup of vehicles you've been racing the whole time. I was expecting maybe a one-on-one race in which I'd unlock a powerful car, but alas, it's just another normal race. The racing mechanics themselves are generally solid, save for some occasionally weird physics. There is a heavy focus placed on drifting to speed up the filling of your boost meter. Higher level and rarer cars can store a greater amount of boost power, and different cars offer slightly different boosting mechanics. Some allow individual boosts that must be fully charged before they can be used, while others use a unified meter that can be drawn from at any time. I did find that the physics on cars was somewhat difficult to predict. Occasionally bumping a wall would grind me to a halt, while other times it seemed to barely affect my speed. Sometimes bumping another car would have very little effect, while at others we'd both go spinning wildly out of control. There's a sense while playing that you're never 100% in control of your vehicle, as if it's never firmly connected to the ground, but rather just sort of bouncing on top of it. Arguably the strongest element of Hot Wheels Unleashed is its incredibly in-depth customization. Cars, tracks, and even the basement in which your tracks can be built are all fully customizable. Cars can have custom paint jobs and be covered in stickers to create meticulous designs. These can then be uploaded and shared online with other players. The same goes for the track editor, which, while very complex, is also quite powerful. It is admittedly a little unwieldy at launch, but an update for the Switch version that claims to improve the tutorial system will be arriving on October 4th. Though even without it, the amount of freedom you have to create tracks is impressive. A lot of what makes this fun comes down to the environments in which these tracks are constructed. Levels take place in one of 6 environments, each of which is way bigger than necessary for any one track. My favorite of these is the college campus, which contains multiple classrooms, a library, and a hallway. Even the ventilation ducts in the ceilings between rooms are open to track building. The complex verticality of these environments ought to lend itself to some interesting tracks if a large enough community can develop around it. Finally, we come to the specifics of the Switch version itself. On Switch, Hot Wheels Unleashed runs at 30 frames per second and is extremely consistent. I tested around an hour's worth of races and struggled to find a single frame rate issue. It's honestly impressive given the huge environments and customizability of the tracks and vehicles. Image quality on the whole is generally good. Handheld mode looks excellent and looks to be native resolution or very near to it. Things are a little blurrier docked, but still not bad. When playing docked, the game outputs at 720p. Not ideal for big screen play, but passable, and worth it for the excellent performance levels. The only substantial downside on the technical front is some pretty long load times into races, and even just the main menu. It makes this a difficult game to just sort of hop into. Hot Wheels Unleashed is a decent arcade racer, but with a whole bunch of additional content that really pulls it up out of mediocrity. The single-player campaign is set up for greatness, but ultimately fails to amount to anything beyond basic races and time trials. The customization is incredible, if a little inaccessible. Hopefully the upcoming post-launch update will clear these issues up. For now, there's a lot of potential. Check back around the time that patch hits for my final scored thoughts on the game. In the meantime, if building tracks and customizing cars can make up for some rough edges in other departments, this may be worth checking out. This video is made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.